Mara adjusted the environmental controls in the Nexus station's maintenance hub, her slender fingers moving with practiced precision across the control panel. As the only Calithian technician assigned to the human-led project, she worked the solitary night shifts, an arrangement that suited both parties. The humans got round-the-clock coverage, and she avoided the pitying glances of the occasional Calithian visitors. The reflective panel beside the console caught her image, her frame too narrow, crest too subtle, skin lacking the vibrant azure undertones prized by her people. By Calithian standards, she was genetically unremarkable, practically invisible. 28 cycles old and not a single courtship offer. Not that she expected one. "Systems normalized," she murmured to herself, recording the adjustment in the station log. The voice recognition software chirped in acknowledgement, its cheerful tone at odds with her mood. A notification pinged, environmental fluctuations in Section 7. Mara gathered her tools and moved through the station's curved corridors, her steps light and quick. At least her physical deficiencies made her nimble in the station's cramped spaces, a small consolation. As she approached Section 7, she heard unexpected movement. The human engineers usually slept during this shift. Rounding the corner, she came face to face with a human male she hadn't seen before. He wore standard Alliance engineering attire, his dark hair tied back, revealing striking green eyes that widened slightly at her appearance. "Oh, I didn't realize anyone was on duty," he said, lowering the tablet he'd been studying. "I'm Elias Forrester, new systems engineer, just transferred from Centauri Hub." Mara instinctively angled her face downward, a Calithian gesture of deference. "Technician Mara Talvesh, I maintain night systems." Her universal translator conveyed her words in standard Alliance English, flattening the melodic tones of her native language. "Nice to meet you, Mara." His pronunciation of her name lacked the proper inflection but carried a warmth that surprised her. "I couldn't sleep, time lagged between stations. Thought I'd familiarize myself with the environmental controls." "There are fluctuations in this section," she explained professionally. "Nothing serious but requiring adjustment." She moved to the access panel, conscious of his gaze. Humans had no understanding of Calithian physical hierarchies. She'd noticed they treated her with the same casual respect they showed everyone. It was both disorienting and strangely comforting. "Mind if I observe? Still learning this station's particular systems." Mara nodded, opening the panel and exposing the intricate network of biotechnical interfaces unique to the Nexus station. As she worked, she explained each adjustment, surprised by his intelligent questions. "The atmospheric density seems intentionally higher in this section," Elias noted. "Yes, it accommodates Calithian respiratory preferences during diplomatic meetings." "Fascinating adaptation." His eyes studied not just her work but her movements. "You have incredible manual dexterity. Those connections are impossibly small." Mara almost dropped her calibrator. Compliments on physical attributes were deeply meaningful in Calithian culture, but nobody had ever. "I'm merely adequate," she responded automatically, the self-deprecation ingrained by years of cultural conditioning. Elias frowned. "Adequate? I've worked with engineers across 3 star systems. What you just did would take most of them triple the time with twice the tools." She finished the calibration, closing the panel with a soft click. "The fluctuations should stabilize now." "Seriously, Mara, you're remarkable at this. I'm grateful you're on our team." As she gathered her tools, she accidentally activated her personal communicator. A message from her cousin flashed across the screen, another announcement of a prestigious mating match back home. Mara quickly shut it off, but not before a flash of emotion crossed her face. "Everything okay?" Elias asked. "Family news, nothing important." She straightened her utility belt. "Just reminders of expectations." Something in her tone must have revealed more than intended, because Elias studied her face with unexpected intensity. "Cultural expectations can be suffocating sometimes, can't they? Especially when they don't recognize what's truly valuable." Their eyes met, and for the first time in her adult life, Mara didn't sense pity or dismissal. Instead, she saw genuine admiration that made no sense within the framework of her understanding. "I should continue my rounds," she said, suddenly unnerved by the interaction. "Of course, I hope we'll work together again, Technician Talvesh." As she walked away, Mara found herself inexplicably hopping for the same thing, a strange feeling for someone who had perfected the art of being alone. 3 station cycles had passed since Mara's encounter with Elias, yet his words lingered in her thoughts like an unsolvable equation. She found herself taking unusual care with her appearance, not that it would make any difference to Calithian standards, but the human had somehow seen something worth noticing. When Chief Engineer Torin assigned her to assist Elias with the station's neural network upgrades, Mara experienced an unfamiliar flutter in her secondary cardiac chamber. She arrived at the designated lab 15 minutes early. "You came," Elias' face brightened when she entered. He gestured to a sprawl of equipment. "I requested you specifically. The interface recalibration needs your touch." "My touch," the translator struggled with the idiom. "Your skill," he clarified, then smiled. "Though I meant it literally too. Your hands do things with these circuits mine simply can't." Working alongside him proved disorienting. While her people communicated primarily through formal channels, Elias filled silences with questions about Calithian culture, her background, her interests beyond work. No one had ever been curious about her before. "So every Calithian has this bioluminescent crest?" he asked, indicating the subtle ridge along her forehead that occasionally emitted a soft lavender glow. "Yes, though mine is insufficient." She concentrated on the delicate circuitry. "Proper crests rise prominently and display intense colors during emotional responses. And that's considered beautiful. It indicates genetic vigor. Mine barely rises and rarely illuminates properly." Elias seemed perplexed. "But when it glowed earlier, while you were solving that routing problem, it was like watching starlight through crystal. It's subtle but remarkable." The compliment triggered an involuntary illumination, betraying her emotional response. Mortified, she ducked her head. "See," his voice was gentle, "beautiful." "You don't understand," she explained stiffly. "Calithian beauty standards are evolutionarily pragmatic. Prominent features indicate reproductive fitness." "Humans have plenty of arbitrary beauty standards too," Elias replied, testing a connection. "But they change constantly. What was considered ideal 3 centuries ago would be completely different today." The concept was startling. Beauty standards change. "Of course, and they vary between cultures even now. That's what makes humans so adaptable. We're constantly reevaluating what we consider ideal." This contradicted everything Mara had been taught about biological imperatives and genetic destiny. If standards could change. "But facts are facts," she countered. "My physical characteristics are objectively inferior." Elias set down his tools. "Mara, nothing about beauty is objective. When I look at you, I see elegant efficiency, graceful movements, intelligence in every gesture." She stared at him, bioluminescence brightening involuntarily. "You find me attractive by human standards." "By my standards," he corrected, "and yes, very much so." The admission hung between them, charged with possibility. For the first time, Mara allowed herself to consider that her worth might not be determined solely by Calithian metrics. When their shift ended, Elias invited her to the station's observation deck. Against her better judgment, she accepted. They stood together watching a nearby nebula cast prismatic light across the viewport. "In space, beauty is constantly changing," Elias said quietly. "What looks ordinary from one angle becomes extraordinary from another. Maybe people are the same way." His hand brushed against hers, an accident perhaps, but neither moved away. Her crest illuminated fully for the first time in years, casting a gentle purple glow between them. The station's artificial day-night cycle became meaningless as Mara found reasons to adjust her schedule to overlap with Elias' shifts. Each interaction revealed new dimensions to this human who saw the universe, and her, so differently. Today they worked in zero gravity at the station's outer hull, repairing communication relays damaged during a micrometeor shower. Through the transparent helmets, she watched Elias' expressions of concentration, his occasional smile when their eyes met. "Have you ever seen Earth?" he asked through the comm. "Only in educational programs. Your oceans fascinate me." "I grew up near an ocean," he said. "The Mediterranean. When this project ends, perhaps you might visit. I'd love to show you." The invitation startled her. Calithians rarely visited Earth. The planetary adjustments were uncomfortable, and humans' casual physical contact disturbed most of her people. "I would consider it," she replied, surprising herself with her sincerity. Later, they celebrated the successful repair with synthesized Calithian tea in his quarters. The space reflected his personality, organized yet personal, walls adorned with images of Earth landscapes and complex technical diagrams alike. "This one was my thesis project," he explained, indicating a holographic schematic rotating slowly above his desk. "Integrating organic neural patterns into station computational systems." "Similar to Calithian biotechnology," Mara observed, moving closer to examine it, "though our approach emphasizes symbiosis rather than integration." "That's why I requested this assignment," Elias admitted. "I wanted to learn from your people's approach." His proximity sent unfamiliar sensations across her sensitive skin receptors. Calithians maintained formal distances unless intimately bonded. This close, she could detect the subtle electromagnetic field his body generated, imperceptible to humans but clearly felt by her species. "Your field harmonizes with mine," she said without thinking. "My field?" "Electromagnetic. All living beings generate them, but Calithians are sensitive to their patterns." She hesitated. "Yours feels compatible." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Is that significant?" "Field compatibility is considered essential for emotional bonding." The admission hung between them, heavy with implication. Elias moved closer still, his field intensifying around her. "May I?" he asked, hand hovering near her face. Calithian custom demanded formal courtship rituals before such intimate contact, but they were beyond such conventions now. She nodded. His fingers traced the subtle ridge of her crest with reverence. The contact sent cascades of sensation through her neural pathways, triggering her bioluminescence to pulse with unmistakable meaning. His breath caught at the display. "You're luminous," he whispered. Their first kiss transcended cultural differences, tentative, then urgent. Her senses, more acute than human standard, registered every detail. His accelerated heartbeat, the slight saltiness of his skin, the gentle pressure of his hands as they discovered each other's unfamiliar anatomies. When they finally stepped apart, her entire body glowed with a light that would have scandalized her people, an unambiguous biological response impossible to hide or deny. "I've never," she began. "Neither have I not like this." His voice was husky, "not with someone from another world." That night they explored territories unmapped in any xenobiology text. Through human eyes, she discovered beauty in her form's subtle glowing contours. Through her heightened senses, he experienced pleasure beyond human perception. Their union transcended physical differences, creating something entirely new between their worlds. Afterward, wrapped in the station's regulation blankets, Mara watched starlight play across Elia's sleeping face and wondered if she had ever truly seen anything clearly before. The emergency klaxons jolted Mara from deep sleep, her body automatically responding before her mind fully processed the situation. Beside her, Elias was already reaching for his communication device. "Station control to all engineering personnel," came Captain Rivera's voice, tight with controlled urgency. "Gravimetric stabilizer failure in Section 12. Critical systems compromised. Immediate response required." Mara and Elias exchanged a single glance before rushing to dress. The gravimetric stabilizers were essential. Without them, the station's artificial gravity would fluctuate wildly, potentially tearing the structure apart. When they reached the emergency hub, chaos reigned. Holographic displays showed cascading system failures throughout the station's western quadrant. "The main coolant line ruptured," Chief Engineer Torin explained grimly. "Caused a power surge that fried the stabilizer control systems. We need to manually reset the backup systems from inside the maintenance tunnels." "The radiation in those tunnels would be lethal to humans right now," Security Officer Jansen interjected, studying a readout. "And the access points are compromised." Mara studied the schematics. "There's a secondary access through the outer ring. The tunnels narrow to 30 centimeters at points." Captain Rivera frowned. "Too narrow for our maintenance drones." "Not too narrow for me," Mara said quietly. All eyes turned to her slender frame. The very physique her people considered inadequate now represented their only hope. Absolutely not, Elias protested. The radiation levels. Calithian physiology can withstand 3 times the radiation of human baseline, she countered. And our respiratory system can function in reduced oxygen for up to 20 minutes. She's right, confirmed Dr. Patel, the station's xenobiologist. Calithians evolved on a planet with higher background radiation. Her cellular repair mechanisms would mitigate damage. There's still the matter of the restricted passages, Captain Rivera said. My inadequate frame is perfectly suited for this task, Mara stated with newfound confidence. I can reach the backup systems. The captain hesitated only briefly before nodding. Prepare her with radiation suppressants and a communication link. As Mara suited up, Elias helped her adjust the equipment, his movements efficient despite his obvious concern. This isn't just radiation, he said quietly. The gravitational fluctuations could crush you if the primary fails completely. Then I'll have to be quick, won't I? Her attempt at human-style humor fell flat as fear edged into her voice. He gripped her hands. When you come back, and you will come back, I want to discuss something important. Tell me now, she insisted. A joint research project, Earth and Calith together. His eyes held meaning beyond the words. A permanent partnership. She understood the double meaning of his proposal. I accept both projects. The journey through the maintenance tunnels was a nightmare of scorching heat, crushing pressure, and passages so narrow she had to exhale completely to squeeze through. The radiation suppressants barely dulled the burning sensation in her skin as she inched toward the backup systems. When she finally reached the control node, her vision blurred from radiation exposure. Working mainly by touch, she initiated the complex restart sequence. As the final connection locked into place, she felt the station's gravitational field stabilize. Backup systems online, she reported weakly through the comm. Stabilizers functioning. Her journey back blurred into a haze of pain and determination. When she finally emerged from the access hatch, Elias was waiting with medical staff. As they rushed her to decontamination, she glimpsed a group of Calithian diplomats watching with undisguised shock. Their perfect, prominent crests unable to hide their disbelief that this flawed specimen had accomplished what none of them could have. Recovery came slowly. Mara drifted in and out of consciousness for 3 days as her Calithian biology worked to repair radiation damage. Elias rarely left her side, speaking softly about Earth, about future projects, about a life where differences were celebrated rather than merely tolerated. When she finally regained full awareness, the first face she saw belonged to Council Elder Vextoril, the most senior Calithian diplomat aboard the station. His prominent crest glowed with formal acknowledgement, a gesture never before directed at her. Technician Talvesh, he intoned in their native language, your actions have preserved Calithian lives and irreplaceable research. The Council extends its formal gratitude. The words were correct, yet something in his tone suggested reluctance. Traditional beliefs died hard, even in the face of undeniable evidence. I did what anyone would do with my capabilities, she replied carefully. Indeed, his crest dimmed slightly. Your unique physiology proved unexpectedly advantageous in these specific circumstances. The qualified praise revealed everything about Calithian inflexibility. Even now, they couldn't acknowledge that her deficiencies might actually be evolutionary advantages in certain environments, like the very space stations where their species' future increasingly lay. After the elder departed, Captain Rivera awarded her the station's highest civilian honor. More meaningful were the quiet words she overheard between 2 Calithian engineers in the corridor. Perhaps our traditional assessments require reconsideration. Small steps, but significant ones. When finally cleared to leave medical, Mara found Elias waiting with an unusual request. There's something I want to show you. He led her to the station's holographic chamber. Inside, he activated a program unlike any she had seen. The chamber transformed into a rendering of ancient Earth, specifically Greece, he explained, where statues of various proportions and features stood in a circular arrangement. These represent human beauty ideals across different time periods and cultures, Elias explained, moving between figures of varying heights, weights, and features. What was revered in one era was rejected in another. What one culture prized, another ignored. He gestured to a slender figure with delicate features. This represents beauty in Tang Dynasty China, then to a voluptuous form. This from Renaissance Italy. Each statue differed dramatically from the others. In human history, standards constantly evolved, not because humans themselves physically changed so rapidly, but because perspective changed. He took her hand. Perspective is everything, Mara. The display shifted to show famous human-designed structures, bridges spanning impossible gaps, towers reaching skyward, underwater habitats defying natural limitations. Humans succeeded as a species not by conforming to rigid ideals, but by embracing variability, Elias continued. The same might be true for Calithians venturing beyond your homeworld. Different environments demand different adaptations. Mara's crest illuminated with understanding. You're suggesting my physiology represents adaptation to new environments rather than deficiency. Exactly, you're not less evolved. You're differently evolved, perfectly suited for the future your people are building among the stars. Later that evening, they stood together at the station's diplomatic reception, where both humans and Calithians celebrated the crisis resolution. Mara wore traditional Calithian formal attire, modified slightly to accentuate rather than disguise her slender frame. Whispers followed her, some disapproving, others curious. A younger Calithian engineer approached timidly. Is it true you can process radiation exposure more efficiently because of your physiology? She asked, her own subtle crest marking her as another inadequate specimen. Yes, Mara answered simply. Our cellular structure appears optimized for space habitation. Hope flickered across the young engineer's face, the first spark of what might become a transformation in Calithian society. That night, in the privacy of quarters they now officially shared, Elias presented her with a formal research proposal for submission to both Earth Sciences Academy and the Calithian High Council, a groundbreaking study of evolutionary adaptations beneficial for interstellar species advancement. With you as lead researcher, he added. Mara studied the document, then looked up at the human who had quite literally helped her see herself through different eyes. Among my people, formal partnership requires complex compatibility assessments, she said carefully. But I find I prefer the human approach. Which is? Elias asked, moving closer. Her crest illuminated with certainty as she took his hands, choosing for ourselves who we wish to become together. As the station continued its silent orbit through space, two beings from different worlds embraced a truth that transcended biology, that worth, beauty, and purpose existed not in rigid conformity to ancestral standards, but in the endless adaptability that allowed life to flourish in the most unexpected ways, across the furthest reaches of the universe.